Why specifically in the later generations is it allowed to spread Chassidus? And like you asked the other day, why is Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai so special? If we had Moshe Rabbeinu, you had the earlier generations, why didn't they learn Kabbalah and the inner secrets of the Torah in the earlier generations? So the Rebbe explains over here two reasons. Number one, just like regarding revealing Torah Shabbal Peh in general, to write it down, it was because the time needed it. So too the Rambam writes, why is he writing in his Meidan Nevuchim certain secrets of the Torah which is necessarily not meant to be advertised because the time needs to speak about such deep stuff. So too, in order to fear God and serve God, because the darkness of the Galus is stronger than the weights in the earlier generations. In the earlier generations, the darkness of the Galus wasn't so strong the way like it's now. Like it says in the end of Masechta Soita, that the later it gets in Galus, the darker it gets. So the earlier generations, they did not need to come up to Chassidus and Pnimis HaTorah in order to serve God. But in the later generations, when the darkness of Galus came stronger, there is a extra need. You need more. You need something more to preserve ourselves, to hold ourselves. For example, when it's not cold outside, so you guys not wearing a coat. But when it gets freezing cold outside, you can't say, I didn't wear one a few months ago. I said, I'm not going to wear a coat now. Well, you're going to get sick. So too now. When it gets colder and darker, there's a need to turn on the flashlight. There's a need to wear a coat. Which it's one way of learning Chassidus. The second way is, like we said earlier, that Moshiach, we're getting closer to the Geula, we're getting closer to the redemption. And the closer you get to the light of the redemption, there's a need to be prepared for the Geula. And what's going to happen when Moshiach comes? We're going to be busy learning Chassidus all day and all night. So we need to be ready for such a thing. And that's why specifically now, because we're closer to Moshiach, which was not so in the earlier generations. And now, specifically, therefore, now we're learning Pnimis HaTorah. Says the Rebbe, page Reisha in Ches. Sev Gimel, Behasem Lachilik Ben Shnei Abiyudim B'Ta'am, Gili Pnimis HaTorah, B'Deiris Achreidim Yashnam Shnei Efanim, Gam Be'efen HaGilui, Al Derech Shnei Efanim, Shebenigla De Torah, Mishnah, Ugemara. So just like we explained, there's two reasons why you need to learn Chassidus, why you need to spread out the inner, deeper realm of Torah. The first reason is, in order to be saved from the darkness of Galus, and the second reason is in order to be prepared for Mashiach. So it's not the same way. These are two reasons why you need to learn Chassidus, but just like there's two reasons why you need to learn Chassidus, so too there's two ways of learning Chassidus. And like the two ways, because in comparison to these two reasons, there's two ways of learning. Which this is the two ways of learning Mishnah and Gemara. What is the difference between a Mishnah and a Gemara? So Mishnah is very short, very condensed, not elaborate, but Gemara takes this little piece of Mishnah, and you can have pages and pages of the Gemara elaborating and explaining and breaking it down. There's two ways of learning Chassidus. There's a way of learning Chassidus and a way of learning like a Mishnah. To learn little points, little condensed lines of Pnimis HaTorah, of the deeper realm of Torah, which you're not really analyzing, you can break it down into detail. The second way is to learn it in an elaborate way, to break it down, to learn it in detail, to understand every point. So this is what the Rebbe is explaining. Aleph, there's one way is Gili Pnimis HaTorah Be'efen She'ikerahu Yidis Nukudas Ha'inin B'Kitzur. There's one way of revealing Pnimis HaTorah, that the main focus is to know the point. What's the point from the whole pilpul? B'Kitzur, in very short, what's the point? This point, that point, and that's it. You're not breaking it down and explaining it. Like the Rambam writes in his Akdama to the Pirish HaMishnayos, that the Mishnayos is very short, written very short, and in these short little words is included many in Yonim. Beis, another way of learning Chassidus, Pnimis HaTorah, is in a way of learning Gemara. To reveal Pnimis HaTorah in a form that it's explained, it's elaborate in a very broad way. Al derech harichas habira v'ashakal v'tarya b'shem Gemara, just like the Gemara is written in a very lengthy way, in a very length form. It's explaining what it says in the Mishnah very lengthily. You're going back and forth. It's not written in a little point, just like it's written in the Mishnah, just saying what the halacha is. Like the Zohar says, that this is the ways we're going to learn the Torah before Moshiach comes. It says, Yisparnesun. They will get their parnasa, they will get their sustenance from Pnimiyus HaTorah, from the Zohar, from the inner realm of Torah. Like the commentaries on the Zohar explain, Tahainu shenyoni chachmas halikus mefurashim umizbarim ba'avana v'archava ba'avana v'asaga. Like the commentaries on the Zohar explains, what does it mean, Yisparnesun, that learning about godliness is clear, it's explained in a very understandable, tangible way that you could grasp it. Not like someone's learning generally, but he can't break it down, he doesn't understand it in depth, what he's learning. That's not called Yisparnesun. What does Yisparnesun mean? That you break it down, you understand it very deeply, and you understand it very well, like someone's learning be'iyun. Then when someone is learning in a deep way, and he breaks it down all the way, and he understands it very well, then the learning is like his sustenance. This is giving him, energy. Chayis, kumavur betanish, al they limit that teda hativ, be'iyun sichlei, ache nitpeses, besichlei, umisachedes, imei, v'hayu ala achadim, nasim mazim lenefesh. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, regarding learning Torah in general, that only when someone learns very well, very deep, he goes deep, he breaks it down very deep, and he grasps it very well, very understands, and he comes one with him. He comes one with this concept that he's learning. Then, that what he learns is considered like food for his nefesh. As according to this, we can explain the words of the Alter Rebbe regarding learning Chachmas HaKabbalah, which they seem contradicting one another. Pasuk Admar Zakon Melchas Talmud Teira Shalei. The Chachmas HaKabbalah Techoshev B'chalal Shlish B'Talmud. We use it al Psak HaRambam Shenyor Manikreim Pardes B'chalal HaGemarei. V'ilu B'Sifrei Lukat Teira Mevar Admar Zaken Shakal V'Tayri Al Derech HaNigle the Limud HaZeyar Karizal Ho B'chalal Shlish B'Mikre Sharei Medrash HaZeyar Hu Al Psuki HaTeira V'Eit Shekam B'Limud HaRozen Derai Seiri Masik Rakam Mitzius Chulu Fareze kein libo da mikro shahu kaide bishmeis of shala kodesh baruch hu afa pisha ene masik klal atzem yus hakodesh bahane kein zahu belimud hazer vaitzchaim. According to this, we can explain what the Alter Rebbe writes. Alter Rebbe writes, a person has to learn, he has to split to 3 his time in learning. He needs to learn a third in learning Chumash, in learning Mikra, learning Psukim, a third in learning Mishnayos, and a third in learning Gemara. So in Hilchas Talmud Torah, the Alter Rebbe says that learning Zohar and Kabbalah is part of a third of learning Talmud, of learning Gemara. But in a Maimer in Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe says learning Kabbalah is a part of learning Chumash, part of learning Psukim, not Gemara. Because he says most of the Zohar is explaining Psukim of Torah, and also you don't understand it well, like you understand the Gemara well. You don't understand it so deeply and good, just like it's in Psukim of Torah. So seemingly it's a contradicting. He's contradicting himself from one place and the other. One place he says Kabbalah is part of learning Gemara. The other hand he says Kabbalah is like learning Chumash. כשמעשה גויין ונתבס בשיחלי ונעשו לאחודים, הרי זה על דרך שליש בתלמוד, שהוא לימוד תיימי ההלוכס חולו, עד ללימוד בעיון להבין דבר מתך דבר וכולו. So the Rebbe explains it simple. It depends what way are you learning. If you're learning Kabbalah and Zohar in a way that you don't really understand in depth, you're just reading words and reading and knowing some sfiris a little bit here and there, so that's part of Mikra. It's part just like learning Chumash, because you're not really learning it in a deep way. You're only knowing the Mitzvahs. You only know, you're not toifis the mahos. You're not going deeply to understand it. So a guy can learn Chassidus just like he's learning Chumash. He can learn it just like he's learning Halacha. He can just learn it Halacha's Psukkos without, or like learning like a B'Shnais without delving deep. Or you can learn, like the Rebbe says over here, you can learn Pnimis HaTorah in a way of, just like you're learning Gemara in a very deep way, in a way that you understand what you're learning very, very well, you analyze it very well, and especially for this, it becomes like your sustenance, that you become so united with it. V'yishleimar sheshnei efanim elu be'efen alimud tuluyim be'beis hatayim anal al gili Pnimis HaTorah b'deiris v'achareinim. So according to the two ways of learning Pnimis HaTorah, either you're learning it just in a way of an okudah, just understanding it in a very abstract way, you're just understanding some points, you're not breaking it down, you're not learning it be'iyun, just learning it like this, or you're learning it in a very deep way. These are two ways of learning Pnimis HaTorah. The Rebbe says these two ways of learning Pnimis HaTorah is connected for the two reasons of spreading Pnimis HaTorah specifically in these generations. Api atam mishumeitz lasis laShem b'shvil b'kuach nefesh b'ruchnius b'pnei yizgabrus acheish chavidedes haderes mas b'gigili Pnimis HaTorah be'even shel nekudes or b'kitzer b'tachlis kigam nekuda shel Pnimis HaTorah hamoir shebo b'keichel hachlis nefoshes b'keven shezeh mas b'karei ein legalis yisem. So according to the reason that you need to spend Pnimis HaTorah, because the time needs it, and because the time needs it, you're able to go against what it says that you can't be Mefarsim Kabbalah, because it's B'kuach Nefesh, you have to save the Yidden from fainting, from passing out from the darkness of Golus. To save a Yid from passing out from the darkness of Golus, it is enough to spread out only little points, only Nekudis, just like Mishnayis, or like Psukim, Halachas Psukis. You don't need to break it down in a very deep way to analyze it and understand it very well. Because a little point of Chassidus is enough to save someone's life. A line of Chassidus, one sentence of Chassidus, could save someone from passing out, from fainting from the darkness of Golus. Masha Eikin Gili Pnimis HaTorah Kedei Liyashir Yisrael L'Hachin Libam the Gili Pnimis HaTorah Shia Beis Yazman Harikei Von Shaz Asagu Gemura B'Yidiyas Hashem Kfi Kayach Adam Vad Kamayim L'Yom HaChasim Harimuvan Shegam HaAchon L'Zeh B'Derech Achrei Mitzarech Liz Daf Al Derech Zeh Daf. But it's not so regarding if you need to learn Pnimis HaTorah, not to save yourself from the darkness, from fading, from the darkness of Golus. For that's enough one little point of Chassidus. But if you're learning Chassidus in a way to prepare you for the way we're going to be learning Chassidus when Moshiach comes, for the way we're going to be learning the inner parts of Torah when Moshiach comes, and what way will we be learning Chassidus when Moshiach comes? We're not going to be learning little points of Chassidus. No. We will be learning in a form of kamayim layom hachasim, like an ocean that covers over the whole person, not a little point. If we're preparing for the coming of Mashiach, for the learning of Chassidus that's going to be when Mashiach comes, take of miyad mamish, then the Pnimis HaTorah needs to be in a form of kamayim layom hachasim. It needs to be in a way of avon, of asog, in a way of understanding, of grasping, of delving into it, of analyzing it, of it being your life, giving you sustenance. That's the way you're going to prepare yourself for the coming of Mashiach. We're going to continue with the next shir, Be'ezras Hashem.